First of all, I want to know how would you grade Arsenal's season now that at the point where we are now, and if eventually Arsenal go on to win the Champions League, where would the season rank in Arsenal's history?
If Arsenal wins the Champions League, it's the greatest season ever. Arteta become the greatest
above
coach ever.
The unbeaten
That
season.
invisible that had, how many points did they have? I think that the invisible, no matter what you say, is overrated. You know why I say that?
That is something.
Juventus went an entire season unbeaten. Nobody talked about it. It's not a big deal. A team in Portugal, I think, went a season. Benfica went a season unbeaten. They don't lord it in your face. Ajax have gone a season unbeaten. They don't lord it in your face. Paris Saint-Germain, if they wanted to go this season unbeaten, they would have. They went the whole season without losing until they won the title, and then they start, putting their foot back and then lost. If they wanted to go the season unbeaten, they would go the season unbeaten. You don't see Juventus, Benfica, Ajax, or any other team that have gone a season unbeaten, but they want to make it look like to go through the Premier League. Arsenal have lost the title with more points than the team that went the season unbeaten. So it's not really, for me, I'm an Arsenal fan, but it's not really a big deal. If you win the Champions League.
So how come when they talk about the greatest teams in English football, Arsenal fans always want to push that unbeaten team?
When you're poor, you can use some of the stupidest thing to brag. You can say, I have bigger tummy than you. I'm fatter than you. I have more children than you. If you haven't you heard somebody say, if you have more new clothes than me, I have more rags than you. If you're richer than me, I'm poorer than you. You've heard that now. If you live in Banana Island, I can also brag that I live in the ghetto. You don't have the kind of ghetto that I have. So you don't see people brag about my poverty is worse than your poverty. The fact that you flex about it does not mean it makes sense. I mean, a stupid kid will be a stupid adult so if they are not properly groomed through the process. So let's be very honest. Would you rather be Liverpool with the number of titles that they've won, or Manchester United 13 Premier League title in the Premier League era,
or have one unbeaten season?
Have one unbeaten season. I know what does that even mean? What does that even mean? Say that you have a good color trophy. Who cares? 20 years from now, you think anybody would think about that rubbish?
So you've talked about the difference in what it would be if Arsenal eventually win the season. But if, as Arteta said, they've made progress, considering all the problems that Arsenal have had this season, if Arsenal fail to win the Champions League, success, failure, how does it rank?
Okay, so now that becomes very relative. It will become my perspective versus another person's perspective. If they don't win the title, a lot of people will see it as failure. But I'm always going to judge Arteta from where Arsenal is coming, one as against.
But it's 5 years. How are we judging him from 5 years ago? He has his imprint on the squad now.
We would always judge him by that. Now, the reason being that he didn't inherit a world-class team like Slot did. Even that credit to Slot for being able to use that world-class team to win the title. He didn't inherit a team that is structured well. He came into that team, had to dismantle the team and put it together. Remember that he didn't put this team together with an all-star cast. Odegaard is the Real Madrid reject. Martinelli is one playing in 4th division in Brazil. Gabriel Jesus is an injury-prone player that Man City want to let go. Zinchenko is a hot-headed player who doesn't know when to stop at the zebra crossing or when to fire speed. So all of those ones. And then you have Miles Lewis-Skelly. Which Arsenal team would of the last 20 years, which Arsenal team will play Miles Lewis-Skelly? You say, oh, Fabregas was played. But look at the people surrounding Fabregas. Or look at the people surrounding Ashley Cole. And who will play Ethan Nwaneri, in any of the generations of the Arsenal teams? And then you look at it, is giving Arsenal again that solidity that was at the back before Pre-Wenger, from the George Graham era. It's giving Arsenal that solidity again. The fear factor is not there, but Arsenal is not just a team that you walk over. This was an Arsenal team that people like Troy Deeney used to mock, that they don't have co-owners. They are not a solid team. That people like Rory Delap used to mock, that just get in their faces and they will lose, right? But this is a team that when you play them, you got to get prepared. They still lose to some smaller teams, but they don't get beaten by Man City, Liverpool 5-0 anymore. They don't get trashed the way they used to get trashed. So that's progress. Now, from next season, because this season I can write it off as an injury-prone season. The injuries are undeniable. It's the same injury that Man City, Man United, Tottenham Hotspur are using as excuses. Why can't Arsenal use it as excuse? The last 2 seasons, they lost the title against the best team in Europe at one time and then the best team in England. That we can understand. This season, I can't tell you that they lost the title to the best team in England. Yeah, Liverpool won the title, but not the way you would have judged the Man City. I'll tell you that they lost the title to two major factors. One, serious series of injuries. Second, diabolical refereeing from hell. You can argue and say whatever you want to say, call me Delulu, whatever, but that's the fact on the table. Your sentiment will not eliminate fact. If you bring in something else, I can understand. If Mo Salah was out injured for 3 months, at some point, Virgil van Dijk was out injured for 2 months. And in the process, some other key players were out injured. Liverpool will not be where they are. Liverpool have been lucky. Liverpool is in number 9 in terms of teams, number 13 in terms of teams with injury. Arsenal is number 1, Spurs number 2. So if you look at that, you will say the team that is in number 2 could not even battle for top 4. The team that is in number 1 have been in second since forever. At some point, they fell to 4th. Chelsea was in second. Small injury came in, and Chelsea can't even find their way in the top 4 anymore. If Arsenal did not progress in the Champions League, Chelsea will not even be thinking of qualifying for the Champions League with a 5th place position if they eventually get it. So it's not been a bad season, and this is the 3rd time in the history of the club they are making it to the semi-finals of the Champions League. Who knows? We might watch them on Wednesday and they get to the finals again. Second one in their history.
One final take on Arsenal. Would Arteta win the league while at Arsenal?
I think he'll win in next season. They bring in Andre Bata, and I think that Andre Bata is the next step that he needs in the club. And when I always tell people that coaches don't sign players, they don't understand. You'll notice that Edu left in November. January came, Arsenal couldn't sign a player. Of the 5 years that Arteta, 5 years and a half that Arteta have been with Arsenal, that January was the window that Arsenal needed players the most, but it was the window that they didn't sign one player because they did not have a football director. Now they have a football director that would continue from the good work that Edu started. I didn't think that they will sign the players that they need. Striker is a priority right now. Midfielders also priority. I wish they could sell Odegaard, let him go and bring in a proper midfielder. Odegaard does not match up to any midfielder in Europe right now. And for any top club, any top midfielder in Europe. So if you want to win the title, if they put Bruno Guimaraes here and put Odegaard here, you take Bruno Guimaraes. If they put Matheus Cunha here and you put Odegaard here, they'll take Matheus Cunha. If you put Bruno Fernandes here and put Odegaard, you take Bruno Fernandes. You see all these guys, even as little as Cole Palmer, you put him here, you put Odegaard here, you take Cole Palmer. So it tells you that Arsenal have a midfielder whose job is to create the goals and make everybody gel up front, but he's not doing it. He's those kind of player that do you yahoo. In final season to the end of their contract, they play one at standing performance and you sign them to another 4 or 5 years and then they're giving you Balderdash card for.
I was going to skip this one, but since you mentioned Andre Bata signings for Arsenal, what they would need. I'm going to list 5 players, strikers, and you tell me fits, does not fit, and why going into next season. Sesko, who Arteta seems to like. Isak, who has proven himself in the last 2-3 seasons in England. There is Victor Osimhen somewhere in there. There is Gyökeres, who is doing wonders at Sporting and is being linked with different teams in England. And a bit of an outsider. Not many people are seeing this, but I think he deserves or he should be getting a shout. Mateta at Crystal Palace. Who fits in at Arsenal? Who is that guy that elevates Arsenal to champions of England? The next season you are saying Arteta wins it.
Alexander Isak elevates Arsenal to champions of England, are probably Champions League contenders. Victor Osimhen elevates them. And I'm putting them in that order because those are 2 players that Arsenal cannot.
For you, number 1.
Victor Osimhen is number 1, sorry. Isak is number 2. I think that Victor Osimhen is a better player than Isak. Those 2, they are the super elites. They are the Formula 1 level. But Arsenal cannot afford them. Arsenal will not pay 150 million to buy Isak. Arsenal will not.
Should Arsenal go all out for that kind of player and
they can't
leave any other position?
No, there'll be leakages. So the team will not be balanced. Arsenal cannot buy Osimhen. His transfer fee is cheap, but his demand for 400,000 and all the drama around him, Arsenal cannot afford as well. Then the other ones, top of that pile, is Victor Gyökeres. Victor Gyökeres can score goals. What is good with Benjamin Sesko is the fact that he can score and create. He can also drop into the midfield, which is the when you talk about the magic formula that Arteta coaches with, is that one extra player that comes to join the three-man in midfield to make them four. That's how they beat Madrid, and that's the reason why Paris Saint-Germain players choose to run for 90 minutes and the extra that followed. So if you look at that, then Benjamin Sesko come after Gyökeres. Mateta is a mid-table club mentality player. You will need to cook him for like 3 seasons for him to step up. Mateta is like this guy with Zaha that left Crystal Palace, burning and shredding everybody, went to Manchester United. The expectation of a big club, the things you need to do at a big club would swallow Mateta. So I don't think he should forever be an outsider. Anosu in this conversation. He doesn't ever have a conversation.
So your list again is Osimhen at the top.
Yeah.
Isaac next.
But unfortunately they are Ferrari. They're too expensive. Arsenal cannot afford them. But then the players that Arsenal can afford. Victor Gyökeres, number 1. Benjamin Sesko. If I have my way, you talk about going all out. If I have my way, I will buy those 2 players.
Sesko and Gyökeres.
Yes, because the way they play.
So if you can get both of them, why not sneak that money, combine and get an Isaac?
Isaac gets injured, what happens? We still go again with that striker.
Yes.
If Osimhen gets injured again, we still go with that striker. The English league is faster. Osimhen is fast, but the English league is faster. But it's aging as well. Let's not forget. So somebody goes and jam him that eye that have 18 screw, and then he has to go out again. What happens? So instead of that, you get 2 strikers. Arsenal is the only team that doesn't have a single striker. So why not get 2 strikers? What's the problem with 2 strikers?
You are listening to Elegbete TV Radio.